The head top garden. Taffy Street was a typical city street with typical city legends. But on Saturday evenings, it had a special sound all its own. Stop! Help! Enough! The sound came from the screaming mouth of Cornelius Anderson, Corky for short, who hated to have his hair washed. In the kitchen, Corky was standing on a chair, rolled up to the sink. His head was under the faucet, held there firmly by Mom, who struggled to wash his hair with her free hand. With the flood of water coming down on his head and covering his face, Corky was sure he would drown. He was helpless. All he could do was scream. So, scream he did. The Andersons' neighbors were used to the noise, which could be heard from corner to corner. They smiled and said, Corky's having his hair washed again. Then, one Saturday, the noise was gone. No scream. In the bathroom sat Corky Anderson, with a dry head and a big smile on his face, as the faucet sent water splashing into the sink. This was the day he had been waiting for. He had just celebrated his 8th birthday, and Mom said that he was old enough to wash his hair by himself. Corky had a different idea. No more hair washing for me, he said to himself. Mom wouldn't know the difference. After 2 weeks of Corky not washing his hair, it still looked presentable. But by the 3rd week, it was rather greasy. Corky and his friend's head were walking home from school one day when a puff of wind blew a pile of seeds and leaves on them. When the wind stopped, the leaves fell to the ground, all except the ones on Corky's head, which stuck to his greasy hair. By this time, Mom was beginning to get worried. Maybe if I buy a shampoo that he really likes, he'll use it. First, she brought a shampoo that wouldn't burn his eyes. Then she tried one that keeps his hair from tangling. One shampoo smelled like lemons, another like roses. Mom's idea didn't work. When the time came for Corky to wash his hair, he turned the water on in the bathtub and had fun with the beautiful bubbles he made with his shampoo collection. What's the matter with this boy? Mom complained to Grandma. His hair is so sticky, on windy days all the dirt in the city must stick to it. You leave this to me, Grandma said. I'll scare him into washing that hair of his. That evening, Grandma told Corky a story. Once there was a girl who wouldn't wash her hair. It became so filthy that bugs came to live in it. One night, while she was asleep, the bugs made a rope of the girl's hair and dragged her away. Grandma took the Corky head straight for the shower. Instead, he went straight to bed, smiling. He was too shocked to fall for a story like that. The next morning, Corky tried to comb his hair, but the comb couldn't get through it. It looked more like a patch of brown soil than a head of hair. Spring. Corky was walking home from school when it began to rain. He didn't have an umbrella or a hat, and his hair was dripping wet by the time he reached home. A few days later, as he was brushing his teeth, Corky glanced at himself in the mirror, blinked, and looked again. The top of his head looked green. He leaned over the sink, pressing his face against the mirror until his nose found. Sure enough, tiny plants were sprouting all over his head. Wow, Corky cried. It's a garden. This is really neat. Every day, he studied the growth on his head as the grass grew taller and flowers began to bloom. Corky learned their names. Black-eyed Susan, Daisy, Buttercup, He was thrilled when a butterfly landed on his head one day. Ladybugs visited too, and some of them made Corky's head their home. Corky loved his head-top garden, but it was beginning to cause him problems. He was really angry in school when David asked his teacher, "Will you please change Corky's seat? I can't see over his grass." All the children laughed, and Corky was given a new seat, all the way in the back of the room. Corky's friends didn't ask him to play anymore because he always turned them down. When Ted asked him to play baseball, Corky answered, "I can't. My garden might get messed up." A week later, when a boy called after him, "Hey, I like your Easter bonnet," Corky began to think, maybe I'd better get rid of my garden. It's getting to be a drag. Yes, the thought of a clean hand was beginning to sound good to him now. But what could he do with his garden? He cared too much for it to just wash it down the drain. As he sat in his room, giving the matter a careful thought, his eyes fell upon the calendar. It was May. Then, wow! Corky got an idea. He dashed out to the cellar and came up holding a flower pot and a spatula, which he had borrowed from the kitchen. The next day, Corky presented him with the two best Mother's Day gifts he could. A beautiful potted garden presented with a head of clean